We are in London with Robin Sivapalan, who is a community activist who is working on migration problem. Especially, you have been in Calais. What did you see in Calais?
What I saw in Calais was what I'd expected. You know, a refugee camp that's not a refugee camp. Basically, people who had been, you know, we had this sequence of Sangat being shut down, then people camping out and forming these jungles in the town, and now they've been evicted from the centre of town to outside of Calais to a chemical dumping ground, which is also a floodplain, and you've got people there trying to carve out a daily existence while at night trying to cross the border, you know, in trucks and tunnels, you know, leading to the kind of violence and danger that we've seen just to try and claim asylum in Britain, which is their right.
Part of people stay in Calais are also children.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen many of the children. They largely stay in another compound within, like there's a centre there where for the women and children, so I didn't see, I mean, I saw lots of young men who are probably children, but yeah, I mean, it's who's made it up as far as Calais, you know, it's everyone, men, women and children. Obviously there's a majority of men.
How many chances they have to get to UK?
I mean, every night
risky travel.
It's very risky, and you know, all of the money that the UK is spending is on, you know, 20 million or so on new fences. When Theresa May visited Calais last week to sign the memorandum with the Interior Minister from France, that was, you know, nothing to do with humanitarian aid really. It was all about building a command and control centre, these military ways of dealing with people. So essentially their plan is to build another facility miles away from Calais and deport the people who don't want to claim asylum in France. That's Britain's response to their responsibilities.
British government says that these people are in France, they can apply for asylum in France.
Yes, they could apply for asylum in France, but it's a ridiculously perverse. I mean, look, every other country in Europe, you know, if people manage to get to Germany, you know, these hundreds of thousands of people who are seeking asylum in Germany have not had that response from the German government, nor in France. Obviously, people have gone through many countries before they arrived in France. What is this particular difference? Because there's a strip of water there of 21 miles and, you know, many more millions in security to stop that simple passage that people have made all the way throughout Europe without the same barriers being put up by any other European country.
What is the connection between austerity and the immigration policy?
Look, that's a big question. I don't think it's worth... Look, the point is that austerity is affecting everyone around the world. Austerity is a political decision, and, you know, most of the people in the trade union movement and the labour movement here understand that to be a political decision and understand that there's no need for these austerity measures. So the immigration crisis is made to seem a crisis. It's not. There is no crisis in immigration. There's a crisis of capitalism. You know, and so this is a discourse that, you know, stops people, and this has, you know, been a successful, depressingly successful discourse in diverting people's attentions or making people feel that these are two problems. One is making another one worse. That's not the case. The only solution to austerity, what we call austerity, is not a national solution of national job creation or national welfare provision or national anything. It's about dealing with the problems that face our world now. You know, so when in December, when, you know, hopefully tens of thousands, millions, hopefully people go to Paris for the climate talks, you know, once again, we've lost this sense, and this is to do with the reactionary default politics of the European left. You know, some of this sense that we live in one world that we had maybe in 2008, 2009 in the run-up to the Copenhagen talks, when the world was thinking in global terms, you know, to address the global challenge of climate change. There was a much healthier understanding of the relationship between climate change, war, industrialization, the use of fossil fuels, and migration. People were thinking in meaningful terms, looking at the global reality as it was and trying to understand that and trying to come to solutions. The problem is that this austerity has also led to national movements that have been limited within national borders, and this is one of the problems in actually coming up with a progressive solution that is just towards everyone.
So you mean many refugees are also climate refugees?
Look,
Climate change refugees?
I mean, I'm not even sure how useful climate change. The point is, there are many causes of disaster in the world, and the industrial system, the over-industrialized system based on fossil fuels drives these wars. And it's a military-industrial complex that is creating this level of climate catastrophe, which creates, human catastrophe. You can't really separate any one element. The wars, I mean, look, if you take Nigeria, the Niger Delta as an example, it's an environmental catastrophe built upon a political catastrophe built around the oil economy and the, imperialist oil plunder. What can you call it? An environmental catastrophe? Do you call it a political catastrophe? Do you call it a systemic catastrophe? You can call it what you want. It's a catastrophe, and it's an injustice.
You are a supporter of Jeremy Corbyn. Could he change the situation? How?
Well, I think the most positive thing about the Jeremy Corbyn campaign is not Jeremy Corbyn. We as a movement selected a left-wing candidate. It could have been John McDonnell, who is, but he has heart problems. It's Jeremy Corbyn, and he's been very clear that it's not about Jeremy Corbyn, the white middle-class man from Islington. It's about the movement that has found expression through this opening in the Labour Party, finally. So, for me, yes, Jeremy Corbyn, is a very eloquent spokesperson for our movement, but frankly, I think it's a problem when it's a chronic problem of the British political institution, this celebritization and this need for, for a leadership figure. I don't, look, I accept that the Labour Party operates with that system and that hierarchy, and I've got no particular problem with Jeremy Corbyn as a spokesperson. We could do a lot worse, and he's consistently been one of the most eloquent spokespeople for our movement. But look, whether he wins or not, and I mean, look, for me the problem is actually, like, when he wins, people remembering that it was our movement that did this. It's the same issue in Spain, the distinction between the movement and Podemos in Greece, all of this focus around the leader, and when he resigns or when the treasurer resigns. This should not create such a crisis in our political institutions, the decisions of one or two personalities. So, yes, I'm happy about the Jeremy Corbyn campaign, because it is a campaign that has brought together and galvanised a lot of people who are active in their communities, active trade unionists, active environmentalists, across the social movement. But we need to remember it's a social movement, and it's evolving forms of democracy that are important, not a Labour Party leadership election within those structures which are inadequate for dealing with the situation that faces us.
Some people like Tony Blair says that if Corbyn is leading a Labour Party will be in opposition for decades.
Well, yeah, I was thinking about this question just this morning. I think he even went further and said he wouldn't want to see a Labour government elected led by Jeremy Corbyn. And when you think about the purges that are going on of people who have joined the Labour Party now because of this left-wing opening, and who are being expelled or having their membership rejected because they don't fit with the Labour values, because at one stage they've opposed or supported something other than the Labour Party. By rights, really, Tony Blair should, for his comments, be expelled from the Labour Party, because he has more or less said he would prefer a Tory victory to a Labour victory under the leadership of Jeremy Corbyn. Now, if that's not, a high-profile statement in betrayal of the Labour Party, I don't know what is. And the Labour Party should act with some consistency, and if they can be chucking out people who are members of the Labour Party for who are far more in keeping with its, 100 and so years tradition than what I would call Tony Blair, who was a real infiltrator. Now he has made himself clear that, he will not accept the democracy of the Labour Party, and he would call on people to vote for the Conservatives, or he would prefer that outcome.
Do you see Tony Blair as a conservative?
Look, yes, he has continued the neoliberal project with far more success than Thatcher could have done at that juncture. He, successfully silenced the trade union movement, the base of the Labour Party, for many a year, and all of my adult life has been spent fighting that tendency. It was an infiltration of the Labour Party as far as I'm concerned, and we'll be glad if those people leave or split, and so we can have a party based on the working class, which is what the Labour Party was formed for.